Accountability by Andrew Pond. Well, to start out with, my name, as you know, is Andrew Pond. I am currently the head JV men's basketball coach slash lead assistant for the men's and women's team at Paul Smith College, located in northern New York. We're one of the only colleges in the country to be in the heart of the Adirondack Mountains. We have a enrollment size of about 500 students, and I am currently finishing up my second to last graduate class for the graduate program in the MCAA of Concordia University of Irvine. Accountability, what can I say? Let's dive right in. Merriam-Webster defines accountability as an obligation or willingness to accept responsibility or to account for one's actions. The Bible has a different definition, but kind of around, the same definition as Merriam-Webster. In Corinthians 5:10, for we must all appear before the judgment seat of Christ, so that each one may receive what is due for what he has done in the body, whether good or evil. My own definition of accountability, which I use very gratefully with my team as I preach it, day in and day out, being able to take responsibility for whatever actions may come, have done to one's self or group, and just being able to hold yourself to whatever the outcome is or whatever happened is the most important thing, and that is where I strongly believe is the definition of accountability. Teaching character through sports, our textbook, one of our textbooks for this semester, they've taught us a lot about, different coachability and different coaching aspects throughout, being just trying to coach athletes. Under the accountability section, they talk about being able to accept responsibility for outcomes. For example, the team that I coached here in this photo last year, they didn't like the outcome of a scrimmage, so they had asked for a game against SUNY Adirondack last year to kind of make up for what had happened against them in a scrimmage. The downfall to that is they wanted to do their own thing, and they couldn't accept the outcome of the game as it was unfolding. Problem solver, not an excuse maker. We took a deep dive into ourselves after that game, and we had to really look ourselves in the eye with the tournament coming up at the end of the season. Is this something we wanted to do? Is this something, were we ready to accept, our fate if this was the way that, we were going to lean towards by everybody doing their own thing and not coming together as a group, not accepting accountability for everybody's mistakes. And finally, look to yourself first when improvement is needed. I myself looked at myself as a coach who needed to improve after that SUNY Adirondack game. My players took an even deeper look at themselves as they went even deeper, taking a look at themselves. I had canceled practice for a couple of days. Nobody wanted to see each other. Nobody talked with each other. It really did a number on everybody. But when we came right back to it again, we got ready for our next game. We started doing it the correct way. We didn't get the outcome we wanted. So when looking back on that film, we figured out everybody had to own and take ownership and accountability for what they did by breaking down a simple last 7 seconds of a game to talking about it for over an hour and a half by discussing where everybody was, what they were doing, right down to the bench. As we can see from watching this short little clip from Coach Carter, we can now see that he held his players to a higher accountability, where they weren't doing it in the classroom, so they had a signed contract, and he took away the one purpose that they all thought they had, which was basketball. And for them, they didn't think academics was everything. But from a coaching standpoint, he believed in them so much that he held them accountable to being not only a better teammate to others, but a better academic student to themselves. Where not only he felt he had failed them, but they had failed each other in the long run. As you can see when you watch the two links on Damian Lillard on accountability, the first one was an Adidas commercial talking about how today's younger generation should hold themselves accountable, because when they hold themselves accountable, they then can hold other people just as much to be accountable as well moving forward. And in the second clip, he talked about, different roles, not only as like a leadership, but holding other people accountable because, they may not like what you have to say, but in the long run, the bigger picture is, especially in the athletic world, is to pull together and win championships. And sometimes, somebody who can be your best friend may not be doing it on the court, but you have to be able to hold them accountable to their actions on the court, and you have to be able to separate not only that tight-knit friendship and be able to separate it as I am your teammate and I need to hold you accountable for every action that you do on the court, and you need to do the same for me. Pat Summitt once said in her lifetime, accountability is the essential to personal growth as well as a team growth. How can you improve if you're never wrong, if you don't admit a mistake and take responsibility for it? You're bound to make the same one again. And this is a legendary Hall of Fame women's basketball coach, Pat Summitt, from the Tennessee Volunteers. Basically, what I got out of this was, once again, using that team last year that I had coached as an example, holding them accountable, holding myself accountable, for possibly making that same mistake again. We are playing a JV team 3 hours down the road from us at home. And in the first half, guys are basically doing their own thing again. We're going back down that road again where all of a sudden it's not going to end well. We're going to wind up getting blown out by 30 or 40 points. And late in the second half, about 10 minutes left to go in the game, down 30, we pulled together the best 10 minutes of the season forced overtime, then managed to force another overtime before just running out of gas. But guys were holding each other accountable. Coaches were holding each other accountable for every decision and every make going forward. That last 10 minutes to be able to pull off what was one of our greatest comebacks of the season, but we didn't get the outcome we wanted. But it was something that was able to humble us. But in the end, everybody was able to look each other in the eye and hold each other accountable moving forward. So Pat Chambers of Penn State University talks about how he had a couple of guys having to learn from their mistakes because he held them accountable going forward during the season, whether that was, suspension or, having to, sit on the bench because they weren't doing, what he had hoped they were doing, being, a good leader, and whatnot. But, from a perspective, in a coach's role, being able to hold your players accountable for every tiny little aspect, is the right thing to do. We will, basically what Gino Auriemma was talking about within his accountability was, body language, the way, today's youth perceives watching professional athletes, thinking that they're doing the right things, but really they're not. He's holding his own players accountable and his coaching staff as well, with the simple fact that if your body language is so bad, he's going to hold you accountable, and you're not going to see a single minute in the game, or he's going to take you out because your body language is so awful in the game, and he's just not going to play you the rest of the game, and he's just going to go with his gut feeling and try to get the girls that are going to be able to do what he's asking for, and he's going to hold you accountable for every second that you're not on the court until your body language decides to change. And in conclusion, not only does the accountability aspect affect all different types of playing surfaces, all different sports, but it also has a huge counterpart off the court or off the playing surface, so to speak, where coaches, athletic administrators, teammates are all holding each other accountable, even when you're off the court or off the playing surface, because you are representing, and I quote, you'd be representing whatever that logo is on the front of your shirt. Each definition, that we had gone over with in the beginning of the PowerPoint presentation, all different in some aspect, but all similar in the same way, because they all kind of are asking, for you to accept what the results were, what your actions were, and being able to move forward and grow from there. This quality of character subject on accountability, is so important in the effectiveness of becoming a stronger sports leader to a group of people, or just, a group being able to just hold themselves accountable to see the bigger picture. And if they do that, you're going to have so much success moving forward. That is the end of this PowerPoint presentation on accountability. I was your host, Andrew Pond. Thank you.